welcome guys to our podcast where we are focused on raising capital and investing with purpose. So, whether you are a new investor or an experienced real estate investor, or even looking to buy a business, understanding the art of raising private capital is crucial in today's competitive landscape. Join us as we navigate the complex realm of attracting investors, securing funding, and building meaningful relationships that fuel your business growth. Welcome, guys, to our show. I'm your host, Kalisha, and I have my co-host with me, Betsy. And then in today's episode, we're interviewing Rich Groves, who will be sharing his journey as a real estate investor who is using private capital to grow his portfolio and hosting the first ever real estate conference in his hometown, in his city. And he's here to help us educate persons who's looking to get in the game and for you to network. But before we even dive in, Betsy, you want to hit them with the disclaimer?
Yes, the disclaimer. The following information is for educational purposes only. Please do your own due diligence. We do not provide financial, legal, or professional advice.
That's it. That's it. So, guys, just make sure that everything that we're saying, what we're sharing, it's just our opinion, really. And it's just from experience, the guests that we bring on as well. It's really just they're sharing from their experience. But without further ado, let's welcome Rich Groves to the screen. Welcome.
Hey,
Thank you for being with us today.
hey, Kalisha, Betsy. Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. It's good to have you. I know we chat a little bit we'll call it backstage. Um, so for the for those who are listening and watching, thank you guys for tuning in. I mean, like we appreciate you guys for supporting us. And if you're driving and listening to this is definitely gonna be an interesting episode. But Rich, like let's dive in. Tell us a little bit about who is Rich? How did Rich get into the industry of investing in real estate?
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Yeah, so I live in the St. Louis area, St. Louis, Missouri, Illinois. St. Louis is an interesting market because it's like part of it's Missouri, part of it's Illinois. I know there are other markets out there very, very similar, but it's not like a Chicago that's all Illinois or Miami that's all Florida. Anyway, so I live in the St. Louis area, and I by trade I'm a corporate trainer, so I do adult education for a living. And I just like a lot of people, right? Oh, watched HGTV and saw this show, and wow, I can do that. That looks really cool. Whatever. I mean, so this was way back in the day. I bought my first flip in 2005, and did a rehab, flipped it, sold it, loved it. It was awesome. And then actually I got away. I actually lucked out right before the crash. Got out and just focused on my regular career, but always had that itch. Like, man, I've got to get back into this. I love this. And I'd be watching, Flip This House, and there's CT Holmes and Dan Merrill and those guys, and just happened to be driving to work one day, and a Fortune Builders commercial came on the radio, advertising their night event. So I went to that, and can I say their name? I'm sorry, an education company commercial came on the radio. Anyway, and so I went to the event, and I was just it stoked my fires again, and I was ready to jump in. But the thing was, we were at the time. It was a difficult time for myself and my family, and it wasn't like we were struggling and trying to scrounge up breadcrumbs to eat or whatever, but it was tight. It was a paycheck to paycheck type of situation, like a lot of Americans out there are in. And went to the one night event. I went myself. My wife didn't go with me. And when they laid out, oh well, hey, for $200 you can go to this weekend event. I'm like, oh, I want to go, but I called my wife and said, look, for $200, I want to go to this conference. And she was like, wow, $200, that's a lot of money, And looking back on that now, it's like, I can't believe we had that conversation, but I understand it completely. A lot of people think that about $200, man, that's a lot of money. But I was just like, buy in, believe in me. I know we're going to do awesome at this. We'll make that money back. So anyway, we went to the conference, loved it, started our company, and have been doing that type of, real estate investing ever since. We are wholesaling, we've got some rental properties, we've done some flips. So that's when we started. So it's a little over 10 years now. It was February of 2013 when we started our business. And we just absolutely just love it. And yeah, I don't know. That's how I started. That's how I started out.
Now, I mean, that's good. The fact that during that time you reached out and she was in. I know some partners, one thing that person talk about a lot is having that spouse or that partner like joining, being okay with the journey, being okay with putting the work now. But the fact that you guys even went to the conference together.
Yeah, we did. That was the one thing I had to have. She had to go to the weekend conference, had to, because I was like, all right, I'm not going to fight every step of the way because you don't understand because you weren't there, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, she came along.
I love that you included her. That was really good. That was a good move.
Thanks. I make one every 10 years. I'll make a good move. No.
Oh my gosh. So I know
you're actually making moves now. Really good
exactly. Yeah. When we met in with RPM, at first I loved her interest. So the way how when I met Rich Betzy in person, he was like he got the microphone and he was introducing himself, and he's like, I am rich. And everyone was like, huh? And just laughing, not like thinking that his name is actually Rich. And we're like, oh my gosh, that is such a good intro. So every time he introduced himself, he's like, I am rich. So we met at the Amy Majora Raising Private Money Conference. And I know like you use private money for your business. Like at what point in your business you realize that, okay, I need to start leveraging other people's money to grow?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. When I first started out, I was really focused on wholesaling. That's all I was doing. And my thought was, I'll wholesale, I'll get some money, I'll buy some rentals. And a lot of people have that thought process. I'll save the money I'm making in wholesaling, and I'll buy a rental, and then I'll have some rentals, and then I'll move on to flipping, or whatever. Right? People think there's definitely there's a recipe. But I was given an opportunity to buy my first rental property, and I did that just by like throwing a dart at the board. I was like, let me try this. It was in, and most of my rental properties and everything are in actually like C neighborhoods, right? They're in C areas and maybe even C minus. They're some rough areas that really just everybody there rents. The home ownership is very low. Rentals though are very high. And incredible rate of return. But anyway, the first one, it was an out-of-state owner who was having difficulty keeping tenants in there, and their property manager wasn't great at communication. So there would be and very, very bad at securing a property when it was vacant. So they were having like break-ins and looting and vandalism. So I went to see, because a friend of mine reached out who was an agent, and said, hey, I've got this person in Texas, and we're up here in St. Louis, that wants to sell their house that was a rental. So I looked at it and I just threw something out at them. Hey, I'm interested in buying the house, but here's what I'll offer. You've got to finance it. And at the time I didn't know any better. I was like, look, I can buy it for $13,000. This was in 2016. I can buy it for $13,000, but you're going to finance it over 5 years at 5%, and you're going to need to throw in $6,000 for the rehab cost. So the reply, and I didn't think they were going to accept that at all. The reply was, well, I don't have 6,000. I got 3. We take that. So I was like, everything else was good. Okay, cool. So my first rental property was owner financed, and then we eventually cashed out and refinanced that after we had a while. But that kind of the light bulb went off. Like, if I can do this, and not go to the bank and all that kind of stuff, let's try that. So the next, I had an opportunity to buy 2 properties, but I didn't have the cash to do it, and I wanted to move on them. They looked like they were great deals, so they ended up being really good deals. But I reached out to my cousin and was like talking to him, and he became my first private money lender. And I didn't realize I should have like expanded on that. I didn't have the knowledge and have the education to, capitalize on that. Go try to find other people to do this too. So he was my one private money lender that that's how I built most of my portfolio, was going to him, working out, a return and agreeing to that and doing it, and then going to the bank and do a cash out refinance, pay him out. Right. So that's what I did. But then, beside Amy, Jenna Hoover is my other mentor. She was going to be speaking at Amy's conference. I was like, I gotta go to that. And I had seen Amy at Clever Summit and loved her power pitch, and was like, that's awesome. So this is cool. Kill two birds with one stone. I'll know more about this raising private money stuff, and I'll get to see my mentor Jenna Hoover talking too. And it was like, this is the piece. This is the piece I've been missing this whole time, is trying, knowing how to get out and find private money and get these properties financed with other people's money. Besides,
but I was about to say, like, was it like with your cousin, like, was it that you guys had previous conversation before that you knew that he was looking to go and invest in? Do you know that he was sitting on cash? Like, how did you know to approach that specific cousin, and how was the conversation?
Yeah, we had almost gone in together on that very first flip I did back in 2005. We had almost gone in on that together, but since then he had started his own real estate investing company. So he has a bunch of rental properties. He wasn't doing much flips. I don't know if he was doing any at the time, but he was building a very nice portfolio, and I knew he would understand. And if I did a whole presentation on, here's the property, here's what it looks like now, here, did the whole presentation on, here's, the opportunity. And but like a lot of people getting into that, when you start asking people, it's like you're asking for money, right? And I still had that barrier. I still had that mindset that, man, I'm asking a huge favor, which, mind you, it can be, especially when you're approaching like family. It is kind of a favor thing, but I didn't have the mindset to completely own it as an opportunity. Like, hey, I'm giving you an opportunity. I wasn't going in like that. And at first, when I first started thinking about that, I was like, man, that's pretty darn cocky to think, oh, yeah, I'm giving you this opportunity. Look at this, But the more I learned and became educated, I realized that's not cocky. That's just honestly giving somebody an opportunity to make incredible money and returns on their money. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that answered your question, but it was kind of like he understood what I was looking to do, because he was in a rental property business himself.
No, I think it did. But you also answered a question that I was going to ask you too, in terms of what do you think changed? Meaning, what changed when you just started raising private money, and then after you learned from like the things that Amy did, like what changed your approach? I know you mentioned mindset was one thing, with seeing things that this is an opportunity and I'm not asking you for a favor. But apart from that, how has your approach to raising money like changed?
Yeah, I mean, just more of, I think also when I first, obviously I targeted my cousin because I knew he had the means. I knew he could do it. And it wasn't a ton of money. It wasn't like I was asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, literally, I was asking for like 50, if that. And I was to buy these two flips and rehab them both for $50,000. Yeah, I know your eyes got Betzy, right? It's like, wait, what are you talking about? That's all. I'm going to call crap on that.
But no. What year was this again?
This was 2016. Yeah, No, that was 2017. Sorry, 2017. And yeah, but it was, and it's like I said, the pocket of the market in St. Louis that I was in wasn't high. It wasn't an A or B market. It was a lower C market town that I invest in that gets incredible returns. I mean, I wouldn't even think of buying a property for a rental there unless I saw between 18 and 20% net cash on cash return, and a true net cash on cash return, not a gross cash on cash return, a net. An estimated net anyway, before debt service or whatever, because I was going to go back and refinance those, do a cash out refinance and all of those. But so I've built, not this huge amount, but I've got 15 properties, rental properties, and every single one of them were bought OPM, other people's money. So it was the mindset shift, yes, but it's also, I think it just came with confidence and learning from Amy and her program, all the tips and tricks, and not all the tips and tricks, but understanding that this is a win-win, even a win-win-win situation, right? And presenting it that way. And the biggest thing though, like that was the root of your question. I think the biggest thing was understanding that anybody can be a private money lender. It doesn't have to be your cousin who happens to have a bunch of rental property and has the means to do it. It might be, not to use the cliche, but I mean, shoot, one of my private money lenders is a landscaper that I've used. I mean, we got to talking. He's a landscaper, and I got to think, and he lived, a great guy, lives well below his means. So just by, if you were one of those people, and I think it was originally, that was my hookup too, is like, I've got to ask rich people, for money. It's got to be rich people. It can't be just everyday people who've been very smart with their money and have money, where you may not think they have money. But I reached out to him and did the whole presentation with him. And lo and behold, he's one of my private money lenders now. So just knowing that it can be anybody, and tell everybody what you do. That was my biggest change, I think.
See, this is like, it's crazy because the same thing that you mentioned, I went to an event last night and I was having a conversation with someone, and they're like, I want to get into real estate, I want to do this, and I don't have enough money. And I asked them, I was like, okay, what do you do? They're in the tech space.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. And they're like, and I gave them an example of how lending works. And I said $50,000. I was like, someone can start with $50,000. And they were like, oh, that's nothing. And I'm like, if that's nothing, that means you can invest in real estate. She's like, oh, with between 50K. I was like, yes, you can. So literally just like that, I raised money, and they're like, yep, we need to have a conversation, because then I thought I need to go and buy a house and fix it up myself and do all of that. And she's like, I don't want to do that at all. Like, if I can get in, I'll just get in that way and just lend money or become one of your your partners or whatever it is. Now, I know, like you said, confidence is a thing with raising the money. For a lot of persons, that yeah, everyone talks about confidence, but how do you get like the balls or just to approach someone and ask? I think that's the scary part. Is just starting out, like, yes, we know what to say, but how do you move from newbie to actually taking action? Yeah. What would you recommend for that?
Yeah, it's kind of one of the biggest tips when we first started a business, and you probably, both of you ladies have probably heard it. When you start a business, you have to tell everybody what you do. Tell everybody what you do, whether that's blasting it on social media 24/7, whether that's literally telling people what you do, or wearing the shirts that say "We buy houses," whatever. You're always telling people what you do. And that's what when I first got into this business, that's what I did. I bought a few t-shirts, and every single time I went out, I had my t-shirt on, because you can't talk to everybody, right? But people can read. Everybody else that's behind you at least can read the back of your shirt or whatever. And then, went to the conference, and Amy's, and which she borrowed, I know, off of Maurice, the t-shirts with the words behind it. I bought a bunch of those. I bought my own, with that phrase and our logo on the front. So I wear that now everywhere instead of the "We Buy Houses" stuff, because my shift has been like, no, I'm going to make people know. I'm going to tell everybody I know that I can help them, earn double-digit returns on their money. And so if I'm not wearing those, or even if I am, I've been stopped and people say, hey, tell me about that a little bit. And I'm getting better and better at converting those to actual appointments. I was horrible at first. I was just telling them about it and then not like leaving it there at a cliffhanger. Oh yeah, we should meet, kind of thing. It's like, oh, that was stupid. I should have set up a time, gotten their information the first few times. Like, oh, here's my card. Call me when you want to talk. Duh. Yeah. But when I'm not wearing my shirts, I'm more conscious of it now. That I walk around and meeting new people. It's the typical, what do you do? And I'm telling them what I do. But it has to, I think you just have to have that. I'm full of cliches today. You just have to have that deep burning desire to succeed, right? If you're going out there and you're like, look, I am going to raise a ton of capital, or I'm going to raise the capital I need for this project. Like I just have I have a project lined up. We're going to make an offer tomorrow. Hopefully they accept it, and then we can start raising the money for that. But and that's actually a bigger project that is in a very nice part of the St. Louis area. That's going to be a bigger, it'll be my biggest raise, because I'm normally looking at those small pockets that have awesome returns. This is going to be for a flip, but going out and talking to every single person and knowing I have a desire to get this, and I know I'm offering an opportunity. But I think also my personality is I'm not afraid to talk to people, to new people. I can walk up and introduce myself, and I'm not afraid of looking like a goofball doing it. I know that, but understanding I'm not. It's a different if I'm coming and I'm acting like a goofball, or like I introduced myself as my name's Rich. That's my name. I'm not bragging. That whole thing. I know that was being a goofball kind of thing. It was a goofball kind of move, but a purpose was to get people to remember my name, right? If you're being a goofball, and if I can be a goofball, they're going to remember me. But you don't have to be a goofball, especially when people talk about their money. You don't want to be a goofball, right? It's like, I'm not going to lend my money to some goofball. So I do have I know how to shut that off and be more professional and believe the burning desire to succeed, the belief in what I'm doing. I have to believe in what I'm doing too. I was speaking to another investor a couple days ago that was like, well, why do you give people 12% return? Isn't that, shoot, my last hard money lender gave me 12%. I was like, boom, I rattled off right away. Here are the benefits of going with the private money lender versus the hard money lender. Nothing against the hard money lender, but here are some benefits and why I go with that and why I pay them 12%. Even if your hard money lender is 12%, I guarantee that more money's more expensive in the long run. And went over that, but it was like, if I hadn't developed this, confidence and belief in what I do, I wouldn't have been able to roll that up. I'm like, yeah, you're right. I should just go the easy route and go get a hard money lender. Yeah, it's harder to raise private money. Harder because they're not advertised everywhere, right? Your hard money lenders are like, yeah, we're a hard money lender. They're everywhere you look. So
they're everywhere.
I'm just rambling on. I'm so sorry.
No, you're good. You're totally. I like that you sharing some of these things, and the fact that you said how to turn off that switch. And with everything that you've learned as well, what was the reasoning? Because I know you're doing a conference. Mm-hmm. So guys, Rich is doing a real estate conference that's happening November 4th to 5th. And he has a great line of speakers. But before we even dive into that, it's like, what made you decide that, okay, I think I want to do a conference? Because I know you're on the money side of things, and you're doing a fix and flip, but what was that transition into hosting a real estate conference?
Great question. Thanks for asking it, because it is. So I host 2 meetups in the St. Louis area. One is just a 100% networking. You just show up. I'm not going to say the place, but you have wings and maybe you have some beer. Know that?
You're not the first person who's hosting a meetup at Hooters, and I was shocked the first time I found out. So you're up. You're good.
Yeah. You're good. So I just looked on my meetup page for that, and I found out I've been doing that one since February of 2017. So we've been doing it over 6 years. So 6.5 years now. We've been having a monthly meetup at Hooters, except during COVID, we switched it to virtual, but we kept them going. I think minus maybe 2 times I was sick and couldn't be there, so I just canceled it. But other than that, we've been running it for 6.5 years at Hooters, and it's just 100% networking. It's called the Hooties House Buyers Club, if you want to look us up on Facebook. Or anyway, but if you're ever in St. Louis on the first Tuesday of the month, stop in, have some wings, and talk real estate. But the other one was like my mentor Jenna Hoover. She's like, I love the fact that you're having this. The meetup, the networking meetup at Hooters, but have you ever thought about having like a real, legit real estate investing group? So that turned on I can do that. So I did it. At the beginning of 21, we started a new one called River City REI Roundtable. That is more of your traditional RIA, right? Where you have a speaker and you have a topic and you have networking and you have some food or whatever. So we did that. We've done that for the past, we started January of last year. And I've made connections over my 10 years in this space. So I was asking favors from all the local of them are speakers, and I've asked them to come be our monthly speakers on this meetup. That is informal as well. Instead of like not a dive bar, like there's holes in the wall, but it's it's like kind of a dive bar, very minimal space. We have like 35 seats max that we can have, so it's not like 100-person meetup. It's just like, look, you got RSVP because we only have this number of space, and it became very popular. We sell out almost, not sell out because it's free, but we get full capacity every month, maybe barring a couple months where we have full capacity. And at the end of last year, I was like struggling on who I should bring in for a speaker in December, because a lot of meetups don't have a meetup in December because of the holidays. But I asked everybody that spoke, would you come in and we'll just have panels, and we'll have panels of speakers. And just, I had it for a couple of reasons. One, I wanted to kind of test the concept of having multiple people in one event. Granted, if it was free, what kind of a reaction would we have? We had 70 RSVPs that day. So I boosted it, kept bumping it because we got filled up. And I knew some people would be no shows or whatever. But we ended up with 71, technically, I remember that number, but 71 RSVPs. And we ended up having like 46 show up. So we had so many people at standing room only. And it was a great time. And I was like, you know what? This is, I need to have a conference. And if I bring, granted it was free, so it's easy to come to something that's free, right? But if we did a conference and got some of these big names and got some other big names just in St. Louis, we would have an awesome event. So we've been focusing on, like 16 of the 17 speakers we have lined up are from St. Louis. Like, they're doing business in St. Louis. They live in St. Louis. They may not be native to St. Louis, but they're in St. Louis, doing business in St. Louis. TJ Kermeans being the only one that's not like a St. Louis person, and he's still Midwest, so he can relate. And he's incredibly knowledgeable and knows the multi-family game like anybody else. But it was just like, man, that's how I got into it. I was like, geez, this was awesome. We had a great turnout, huge response. Granted, it was free. Let's test it out as an actual like conference.
So it is a full-blown real estate conference. So it's not about just private money. Tell us some of the things that guests can expect to like learn and like what should they look forward to? Like, tell me about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, when I say 16 of the 17 are from St. Louis, it doesn't mean that's, and we have been focused on getting the word out there in St. Louis. It doesn't mean like if you're not from St. Louis, you can't come. Obviously you can. And the people are knowledgeable and they're phenomenal. They're freaking amazing. They know what they're doing and saying. But so we will be talking about everything. We'll have topics on everything from, and it ranges. It doesn't have to be brand newbies either. If you've been in the real estate game forever, if you've been to conferences, a lot of what you get out of a conference isn't necessarily just the topic being spoken about. It's the connections, the relationships, the networking, the opportunities that come out of those. So we're hoping for that as well. I think there's an immense amount of that. St. Louis has a lot of real estate meetups. Like one of my things in advertising this and promoting this is I've been trying to make my rounds to as many of the real estate investment meetups every month. And they're like 14 in St. Louis. It's like, are you crazy? So if we could just connect the dots and get, and some people may not know other people, and there's different, you may all be in, St. Louis is one of probably the biggest little cities in the country. Like, everybody knows everybody, but it's still big enough that you may not know anybody. Anyway. So we're trying to make this for newbies, for experienced people, for people in the middle, people that may be shifting their mindset. Like, I used to do rehabs, but I want to focus on wholesaling. That's awesome. Or I've been doing wholesaling. I want to switch to rehabs. That's awesome. So we're doing everything from, we'll have wholesaling. We'll have landlords. We'll have talk about Section 8 rentals. We're going to talk about, which is, the HUD rentals. We're going to talk about Airbnbs or short-term rentals. We're going to talk about rehabbing. We're going to even talk about things like, how to build a real estate team. Like, how do you actually do that? So we got a speaker that has gone from just a couple of guys to this huge operation. And we're also going to have a couple keynote speakers that are very well respected in St. Louis, and they do nationwide traveling as well. Sean McCloskey and Mike Kitko. They're going to be more mindset opportunity or mindset speaking. And charging people up that way because their mindset is amazing, and changing your mindset and shifting your mindset's key a lot of times too. But we're going to talk about everything. I mean, we're going to have we have a lender on on tap to be a speaker, which we might actually tweak that and turn that into a panel and having different like traditional lenders, hard money lenders, private money lending, talking about that. I've got a broker that would be interested in speaking. So we're going to talk about a lot. We want, and so much more. It's incredible. If you go to the website, we have not only just the list of speakers and the topics that are going to be covered as well are out there. So you can see all the different topics we're covering. There are a few obviously that we can't fit. We got 2 days, right? It's a 2-day conference and we got 17 speakers. That may sound like, oh, no big deal. Holy cow. Once we started putting the logistics together, we're like, okay, originally I wanted everybody to have like an hour to speak. Nope, that shrunk down like 30 minutes to 45 minutes, right? Each topic. And we have a couple different packages where we have just your general admission package, which gives you, I don't mean to say just, it's an amazing package, but tickets start at $297. So for like $297, they can get a general admission. They go to all the speaking events. They can meet the people and do that whole thing. And then we have a VIP package that's only $497. And with that, we have a VIP mixer after the first night or at the first night, and then they have VIP lunches both days too, where they're going to be able to mix and mingle among all the other VIPs plus the speakers that'll be there as well. So it's an incredible opportunity, and I just kind of kept talking after I should have just shut up.
No, you're good. For only like $297, because I was gonna ask you like what's the price, but then you said it.
Yeah.
So that's pretty good for $297. So guys, like the website link, the event page link is on the screen. If you are listening, it will also be in the description. But Rich, one question I want to ask you before we wrap up is like with doing the conference, building your portfolio. So I want you to share one challenge you had with raising private capital, and then how did you overcome that challenge?
That's an amazing question. It is. The big challenge, I think, although it wasn't, I mean, it was a big challenge. It wasn't a huge challenge. I mean, it's exactly what you're asking me to tell you. So it was a big challenge in the fact that I was talking to this guy in the finance business in New York, and I did my whole presentation, my private money presentation, went through it all, killed it. At the end, I know I killed it because at the end he said, "Look, I'm going to give you, some props here." I get calls from people like you or text people like you all the time. They're usually some 23 or 24-year-old kid wanting to get rich quick and has no plan and all this, but you were very structured and very, very organized. So I appreciate that. The only thing he asked for was, and I didn't have it ready yet at the time. He's like, "Can you send me some case studies on the projects you've done?" So I had to scramble real quick to get them. I mean, I had all the data, it was just loosely organized, but I put it together in a PowerPoint presentation and sent it back over to him for him to review. That showed him, my before and after pictures, and then the breakdown of the purchase price, the rehab, and what my private money lender got in return, which at that time was only my cousin. Right, he was the only private money lender I had. So every single one of those properties I sent him, the return was going to my cousin. He got it. He was my lender, but it was all true, all accurate. But it was that was the challenge. Like, holy cow, I could have very easily said, "Oh, I don't have that," or whatever. I was like, "No problem. Give me a couple of days. I'll have that over to you." You just had to go out and get it and work for it. Again, going back. I don't mean to keep going back, but based on a burning desire, because I'm like, I've got this guy. He's against the ropes. I'm going to get him. I'm going for the kill. Right. I'm not going to let this guy slip away because it was very attractive in the fact that he's like, "Look, I got some money I can lend you, that I can lend on properties, on deals. I could start out, like 50 grand, but I've got upwards of 250 or multiples of that." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." Right. So that was like, "Look, this is a real deal guy. He knows, he's already told me I did well. Let's do this." So yeah, I didn't have it, but I had to go get it and put it together for me. I don't know if that's kind of what you're talking about, struggles.
Like, because some person would scramble and be like, "I don't have that," or tell the lender right away, "I don't have that." But the fact that you're like, "I'll get that over for you," and you went ahead and you just had to do what you have to do. So if you don't really want that money, then you will find an excuse and you will not send the lender, because a lot of times lenders they're committed, they're ready to go, but they just want one more piece of information that you already have. But sometimes we're lazy to just take the time and put it together and present it to them. And that's literally all we have to do. So guys, like this, I just wanted to share, like, I went through the speaker list and everything that you mentioned. I know your story and your background. So the fact that you have experience with raising capital, you're a real estate investor, and start having your own conference. I think that the fact that you guys are having speakers touching on a little bit of everything is key. So whether you want to do fix and flip or wholesale or Section 8 or whatever it is, there's someone there to share their knowledge about it. If it's raising capital, they have you that they can always reach out to. They have a panel that you're thinking of doing, which I think that's a fantastic idea, to have the different lending persons on a panel and to hear their perspective and how they do things, so persons can decide, okay, I want to use hard money and private money. I only want to do private money. I want to do a combination of both. I can do DSCR, private money. So, I think you guys should definitely do that panel. That would be fantastic.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to hand over to Betzy.
Okay.
But
Yes, thank you, and for everything that you've been providing for everyone, especially like over there in St. Louis. It sounds, I mean, I got excited just hearing about everything that you're providing. I mean, heck, if you're just starting in real estate, this is the place to be for sure. So, you guys, the link is in the description. Please definitely go if you can, if you're in the area, or even if you just want to meet other people to network. Um, Thank you. Thank you so much, Rich. Thank you to you guys, our viewers and listeners. We feel the support. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to get our notifications. You can ring the bell just so that you guys can. We sometimes lose people. They're like, oh no, like I missed the live. We go live for you guys every Monday so that we can answer questions on the spot live. So we love doing that for you guys, and we love to continue doing it. We're very excited for everything that we talk about. And yeah, so whether you're looking to finance your next project, launch, or expand a new business, we hope that this episode gave you insights, strategies, and tips so you guys can raise capital and invest with purpose.
Thank you.